So right now we're about 26.35, but we're still well off the highs that we hit before Trump. We got closer to 2,800. We got 2770-ish. I forget exactly where we were. The market price of gold is a lot higher than the official price. If we were to return to a gold standard today so that the dollars were backed proportionately by the same amount of gold that they were backed by in 1971, we would have to revalue the gold price above $80,000 an ounce. That just shows you how badly the dollar has been devalued ever since we severed the link to gold.
Gold has long been recognized as a stable store of wealth, with its value backed by tangible reserves, especially when the US dollar was tied to gold until 1971. Before that, the US dollar was pegged to gold at a fixed price of $35 per ounce, allowing for the exchange of paper currency for gold. However, after President Nixon decided to sever the US dollar's link to gold, the price of gold began to rise significantly. This shift was largely driven by increasing inflation and the expansion of the money supply, which caused the dollar's value to erode. If the US were to return to a gold standard today, experts estimate that gold would need to be revalued at over $80,000 per ounce to reflect the current size of the money supply. Although no longer tied to the dollar, gold remains a stable form of currency, mainly due to its natural scarcity. Unlike fiat currencies, which can be printed without limit by central banks, gold's supply is finite, making it resistant to devaluation. During times of economic crisis or government overreach, governments often print more money to meet their financial obligations, which can undermine the value of currency and savings. This potential for currency debasement has reinforced gold's enduring role as a reliable store of value, even in the modern global economy. Legendary analyst Peter Schiff argues that the decision to abandon the gold standard in 1971 gave governments more flexibility in monetary policy. Still, it also removed the natural limitations on government spending. Without the gold-backed currency constraint, governments could print money freely, leading to rising debt and inflation. This unchecked money supply expansion contributed to economic instability and growing financial challenges. Schiff suggests that the problem was not with the gold standard itself, but with the government's decision to move away from it, allowing for uncontrolled money creation, resulting in the economic pressures we face today. As we bring you clips from the discussion, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this.
When we left the gold standard, in 1971, Nixon had devalued the dollar twice. It was $35 an ounce. And there were a couple of devaluations before we actually, cried uncle and just closed the gold window. But the official gold price is still $42.22. That's what's on the books. Now, the market price of gold is a little bit better than 2,600. It's actually been rising here last couple of days. It was up about $50 yesterday, up another $20 today. So right now we're about 26.35, but we're still well off the highs that we hit before Trump. We got closer to 2,800. We got 2770-ish. I forget exactly where we were. The market price of gold is a lot higher than the official price. Now, since we went off the gold standard about 1971, the money supply has increased by about 8,500%. 22 trillion or something like that. So we've had an explosion in the money supply that has far outpaced the increase in the gold price. So if we were to return to a gold standard today so that the dollars were backed proportionately by the same amount of gold that they were backed by in 1971, right? We would have to revalue the gold price above $80,000 an ounce. That just shows you how badly the dollar has been devalued ever since we severed the link to gold. And to go back on a gold standard would require $80,000 gold. That would be the new price, right now at 2,600. So gold has a long way to go if we are to ever go back on a gold standard. Now, there are people say, well, why be on a gold standard? Just be on a Bitcoin standard. The Bitcoin standard isn't going to work, But the government is no more likely to want to go to a Bitcoin standard if somehow it had to have Bitcoin backing all of its money, because the government doesn't mind, create Bitcoin either, just like it doesn't create gold. It has to get the gold, but it's not going to move. We're not going to move to that standard. That's absurd. But it also shows you the argument that, well, gold, it's all a monetary premium. It's not. Gold is trading for, barely above the cost of, mining it still. Yeah, finally, we got, a few $100s. It costs a lot of these gold mining companies $1,600, $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 to mine an ounce of gold, and they're selling it for $2,600. So it's not a hugely profitable business yet, because gold is still ridiculously cheap relative to the supply of money that exists. But it shows you what the government was able to do once it was no longer disciplined by gold. That's why the government has grown so big. That's why the debts have grown so large, because what was preventing all that was removed. And the Bitcoin crowd says, see, that's an example of gold's failure, because gold failed to do its job. No, gold did its job perfectly. It was the government that failed to stay on the standard. The government went off the gold standard, and the courts allowed it. The public allowed it. While we were on a gold standard, government was held in check. Now, yes, we started to veer off that in the 1960s with the war on poverty and the Great Society. And then the market tried to discipline us. Europeans, de Gaulle in France, started to ask for their gold back, right? So the market forces were going to work. They were going to rein in government spending and excess deficits. Otherwise, we would have lost all our gold and the dollar would have imploded. But rather than obeying the market forces, we just abandoned the gold standard. That's not a failure of gold. That's a failure of people, men, women. It's a failure of government. The government refused to adhere to the gold standard because the gold standard was doing exactly what the founders wanted, which was limiting the ability of the government to expand.
The U.S. national debt, exceeding $35 trillion and over 120% of GDP, has raised concerns, but doesn't necessarily signal an immediate crisis. A significant portion of this debt was accumulated due to major economic events, such as the 2008 financial crisis and the 2020 pandemic. During these times, the government borrowed extensively to stabilize the economy, and while deficits surged, they typically decreased once the crises eased. This borrowing helped mitigate deeper recessions and economic hardships, suggesting that while the debt is high, it has played a role in preventing more severe economic downturns, as noted by analyst Peter Schiff. However, the long-term effects of this ongoing debt accumulation pose significant challenges. The continual expansion of the money supply can lead to rising inflation, diminishing the dollar's purchasing power and placing financial strain on American households. Peter Schiff argues that addressing the growing national debt and implementing fiscal reforms is essential to ensure economic stability and protect citizens' financial well-being, especially as inflation continues to erode the value of their earnings.
There's a cost here that everybody is overlooking. We're struggling. Americans are up to their eyeballs in debt now. They can't afford the processed food that they're eating. They're putting that on a credit card. So where's the money going to come from to have everybody eat healthier food, right? No one talks about any of this. Now, yes, could we save money in the long run on our healthcare costs? Sure, but potentially. But in the short run, prices are going to go up at a time where people are already struggling with the prices we have right now. The same thing with this deportation of the illegals, which now, we're talking about, are we going to have an emergency, executive order, or, how are we going to start deporting all these illegals? And, sure, it's great on the campaign trail to talk about, getting rid of the illegal aliens, right? Because, sure, I mean, people aren't supposed to be breaking the law to come into the country, right? You're criminals, right? If you're breaking the law. And when times are bad, and which they are bad, right? For most people, times are bad. That's why Trump was elected. That's why I said he was going to get elected. it's always easy to blame the immigrants for the problems. Right? You look for a scapegoat. Right? The immigrants are taking your jobs. Right? The immigrants are committing the crime. Right? Just bash all the immigrants. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't immigrants that are committing crimes. Of course there are, but there's plenty of crimes committed by native-born Americans. Right? Immigrants coming in and going on welfare, yeah, but so are native-born Americans. Right? So either one of them is bad as far as I'm concerned. But, it's very easy to bash the illegal immigrants, especially when so many of them have come in, right, under Biden. And the ones that have caused problems are the ones that are on the headlines, right, when they kill somebody. But there are a lot of illegals that don't make the headlines because they don't break any laws. They're actually breaking their backs doing a lot of hard work. And so if we're going to just go out there and get rid of the illegals, we're going to be getting rid of a lot of people that have been contributing to society. Right? Yeah. If we were only going to get rid of the criminals, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Let's get rid of the rapists and the murderers and the people that are, just living on welfare. But that's not how it works. We end up getting rid of a lot of people. Speaking about food, a lot of those workers in farms helping to grow food. Now, what happens if they're not there anymore? I mean, who are we going to hire to replace them? It's very difficult to hire a lot of legal Americans. They don't want those jobs. The government gives them a better deal. So in order for the farmers to get the labor, they're going to have to offer much higher wages, which might be, okay, that's good for the Americans who get those higher paying jobs. But now the people who buy the food, they're going to have to pay much higher prices. Now, one of the reasons that Trump was elected was because people were fed up with paying high prices and they wanted relief. Well, they're not going to get relief if, the farms are forced to hire much more expensive labor.
The decision to abandon the gold standard in 1971 could continue lasting economic effects. With the gold standard removed, governments gained the ability to print money without natural constraints, leading to inflation and a gradual decline in the dollar's value. This increase in money supply has caused gold prices to rise significantly over time, as investors turn to gold as a safer store of value in times of economic uncertainty and currency devaluation. As the government continues accumulating debt and expanding the money supply, the price of gold will likely continue to climb, with more people seeking it as a hedge against inflation. If rising debt and unchecked money printing continue, we may see even higher demand for gold as investors look for ways to protect their wealth. This shift could further drive the price of gold, reflecting concerns about the weakening value of fiat currencies. Please share your thoughts on Peter's analysis in the comments below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.